So here's a possible way of looking at this, and we'll talk a little bit about some other visions in a moment. I think that there's a way that you could look at this and suggest, and this is an interpretation, but you could suggest that many of these characters are dead because of their own action. Gertrude, of course, drinks the poison that Claudius has put his union in, and that union is a pearl, which is kind of a harsh and kind of like mean pun for Gertrude, who is being poisoned by her union with Claudius. That's been the big mode of contempt from Hamlet to Gertrude this whole play, is that she's been in a bad marriage, and that this union that she has with Claudius is the problem. And that's what literally poisons her by the conclusion of the play. And it's kind of like her own fault in some ways, or at least you could pawn that one off. If you're not thinking it's her fault, you could pawn that one off on Claudius, because he is the one that poisoned that cup. Laertes, after he dies, says, while he's dying, says, I am justly killed with mine own treachery. He was the one that poisoned that sword. And when they're fighting and the rapiers get switched, it's Laertes' own poisoned sword that he gets stabbed with. And Laertes says, I deserve to die because I played false and I was treacherous. Similarly, about Claudius, Laertes says, he is justly served. It is a poison tempered by himself. He was the one that put the poison in there. And so he deserves to die he was trying to kill Hamlet. He deserves to die for all of the poisoning that Claudius has done. So those poisonings, really, I mean, you could put those on Laertes' shoulders, his own poisoning. You could put all three of those deaths on Claudius' shoulders if you want to. The middle two are a little bit harder to kind of skate around. For Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, who Hamlet has created this new letter asking England to kill Rosencrantz and Guildenstern instead, Hamlet says, when he explains this to Horatio, why, man, they did make love to this employment. They are not near my conscience, which is a similar thing that he says about Polonius, who is certainly the person that Hamlet has most actively murdered. He says, thy wretched, rash, or I think that should say thou, wretched, rash, intruding fool, farewell. I took thee for thy better. Thou find'st to be too busy is some danger. Hamlet, even after he's apologizing in some sense to Polonius for killing him, says, it's kind of your fault for being a busybody. Like, you got in other people's business, and there's danger in that. You got in between this thing, and you shouldn't have been here. And because you were hiding behind a curtain and being deceitful, that's why you're dead. Of Ophelia, Hamlet in Act 5, Scene 1, bursts out of the bushes to confront Laertes and to say, I loved Ophelia. 40,000 brothers had not so much emotion, Hamlet says, as he has for Ophelia. And while we could certainly read an implication of Ophelia's suicide as resulting in Hamlet's spurning of her affections, whether or not we value this claim from Hamlet, I leave to you. It's very difficult in this play to discern how Hamlet actually feels about Ophelia.